With that loss comes something even more subtle but damaging. And this next truth hit me like a truck. The more clearly you can name the fear, the less power it holds. Is this you? You're someone who has so much to say, so many ideas, but you stay quiet. You want to show up more confidently, whether that's online, your business, or in real life, but the fear of being judged or seen makes you shrink yourself again and again. Or maybe you've been playing small for so long you've forgotten what it feels like to take up space as your whole self. You keep saying, I'll post when I feel more ready, or I'll speak up next time, but the next time never comes. You keep tiptoeing through your life, hoping not to be too much, while secretly wishing you could be more. And now you've convinced yourself saying things like, I prefer listening to other people anyway, or I don't have anything important to say. Then this video is for you. Because for years, I've been a chronic people pleaser, prioritizing other people's needs over myself. I've let other people cross my boundaries because of the fear of being rejected. But isn't that so exhausting? Hey, it's Shrey, and on this channel, we are all about becoming better human beings. Our goal here is to help you feel heard, seen, and supported to become your best self, one human being at a time. If that resonates with you, consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't ever miss a video. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not a therapist, and this is not clinical advice. Everything I'm sharing is my own opinion and what has worked for me. Take what serves you and leave the rest behind. Let's get back to it. I'm not telling you to just drop everything and take a surface level, don't give a approach. In this video, we're talking about the 5 shifts to help you lean into what you truly think and feel, stay rooted in yourself, and find your own voice. Maybe you spent your whole life being a shapeshifter, a people pleaser, or a version of yourself that makes other people uncomfortable. You don't realize it, but the more you do this, the more you lose something sacred: your identity, your voice, and your you-ness. The more you prioritize other people, the more you are abandoning yourself. And today, let's change that once and for all. For us to grow, we need to understand this question we ask ourselves all the time. Why do we care so much? Caring what people think is a survival mechanism. It's wired into your nervous system. See, back in the day, like caveman days, if the tribe didn't like you, you could literally be cast out, left to starve. So we evolved to be careful with rejection, to care about how we're being perceived, all to increase our chances of staying in the tribe and surviving. But now, you're not going to die because someone on Instagram doesn't vibe with your outfit, your voice, or your caption. And yet, it feels like death sometimes. Your stomach drops, your brain replaces what you said, you second guess every move, you shrink yourself just a little bit smaller. This is what happens when we tie our self-worth to other people's opinions. And here are some common signs of people pleasing. You say yes when you mean no, you over-explain your boundaries, you don't share your big ideas, you date people who don't respect you, you hide parts of yourself to fit in. And it gets even more complicated when you grow up in environments that praise you for being quiet, helpful, agreeable, and high achieving. You get scolded for talking back, and you're praised as a good girl when there's an obvious disrespect in your boundaries. You start to believe that your value comes from being liked and not from being authentic. It might have served you back then, but it's costing you a lot now. Here are hidden costs of chronic people pleasing. And if you don't confront this, it becomes a lens you live through, and you'll continue to stay in the shadows. People pleasing might feel harmless at first. It keeps the peace, avoids conflict, and earns you approval. But over time, the hidden cost starts stacking up. The more you say yes when you really mean no, the more quiet resentment begins to build. You find yourself drained, doing things out of obligation instead of choice, and slowly the bitterness seeps into your relationships. What's worse, the constant habit of bending on everyone else's expectations erodes your sense of self. You lose track of what you actually want, and before long, you're living a life that doesn't even feel like yours. Because every action you make in the 3D world affirms the identity that you have here. The more you act like you're secondary to everyone else, the more your reality becomes that, which is why you feel like a side character. With that loss comes something even more subtle but damaging. You start to lose your own voice. It shows up in small ways when you default to, yeah, whatever everyone else wants, or quietly believing I don't really have anything to say. This constant self-betrayal doesn't just affect your emotions, it takes a toll on your body too. Running on fumes to meet everyone else's needs leaves you chronically exhausted, vulnerable to stress-related issues like insomnia, headaches, or even burnout. And because you're always trying to do it all, perfectionism tightens its grip. Every mistake feels dangerous, like proof that you've failed someone, which only feeds the cycle of anxiety. Perhaps the most heartbreaking cost of all is what you miss along the way. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align, you're saying no to the opportunities of growth and experiences that could actually move you closer to your purpose. And even in your relationships, people aren't connecting with the real you. They're connecting with a version of you that's always accommodating. That means the bond you create often feels shallow because authenticity is a foundation of true intimacy. People pleasing might look kindness on the surface. It often comes at the expense of your peace, your health, your authenticity, and your voice. The turning point is when you turn awareness into power. And here's the good news. You are not broken, you are not weak, and you're definitely not alone. The fact that you're here means something in you is waking up, and you're starting to see the pattern. you're starting to realize that playing small is no longer working for you. And that's where all change begins, with awareness. So now that we know the dangers of people pleasing, we're going to dive into the 5 powerful mindset shifts and identity upgrades that will help you. Because we love an actionable queen. We'll be talking about how to detangle your worth from opinions, build unshakable self-trust, speak with confidence, and reclaim the version of you that's been hiding for way too long. Let's get into concept number 1. Not everyone's opinion is equal. Let's be honest, you wouldn't take financial advice from someone who's broke. So why are you taking life direction from people who aren't even living authentically? One of the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had was realizing this. Not everyone's opinion deserves the same weight. Let that sink in. Some people speak from fear and not vision, from projection and not wisdom, from jealousy and not love. And yet when they criticize you, you listen and you internalize it. You adjust yourself to fit their judgment. Why? Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that keeping peace is more important than speaking your truth. But here's the actual truth. The most loved people in the world will still get hate. The most successful creators will still get misunderstood. And this next truth hit me like a truck. If you're not making enemies, you're not speaking your truth, because at the end of the day, no matter what you do, even if you're bending your back, someone will still not like you. And let that really sink in. How does that feel in your body? If it feels tense, pause the video. Take some breaths, regulate your nervous system, and say, I'm not here to please anyone but myself. So why not be real instead of liked? Here is a mini exercise that you can start doing. Write down the top 5 people whose opinions you fear the most. Then ask yourself, do they embody the life I want? Are they emotionally safe? Have they earned the right to speak into my identity? And then are they the type of person that I want to be? You'll be surprised how many people you're performing for doesn't even fit this criteria. And it's people that you actually don't even respect. You'll notice this now. The people who have a healthy relationship with themselves want to see you succeed. And the only ones who have insecurities in themselves will judge you and bring you down. When people judge you, it says more about their deepest fears and insecurities, because at the end of the day, they're projecting and they're scared of being judged by the same thing. You shouldn't feel responsible for other people's actions, and for the longest time, I refused to feel angry because I've seen destructive displays of anger. But I realized that anger is important to setting boundaries, and you should feel angry when someone disrespects you. It shouldn't be destructive where you're just hitting things and just belittling people, but you have to feel angry to understand that this isn't what you want in a relationship or a friendship. And you either talk to them about it or leave. It's a necessary emotion, and let this be the start of filtering out whose voice actually matters in your life. Which leads us to concept number 2. Concept 2. Self-trust is louder than external validation. Let me say this loud and clear. The opposite of caring what other people think isn't apathy. It's self-trust. Having the full belief in your own judgments and decisions. When you trust yourself deeply, your instincts, your values, your vision, the need for constant reassurance externally starts to fade. Everything is learned behavior. When you've learned to depend on other people to make you feel whole, you'll continue to seek that external validation. So to its core, people-pleasing is a lack of self-trust. The only way you feel enough right now is if you seek that acceptance from outside forces. This becomes a problem because you can't fully control how people perceive you and how they act. So it's risky to have your self-worth depend on what other people think of you. We've seen this concept talked about so much, and you're probably aware of this already. But how do you actually do it? And that's the catch. You can't just decide to trust yourself. You have to build it. Self-trust is like a muscle. If you've spent years outsourcing your decisions, overthinking every move, shape-shifting to be liked, prioritizing other people before you, that muscle might be weak right now, but that's okay. Because like any muscle, you can rebuild it. And that's the blessing we all have, our brain. Our brain has the ability to rewire and reshift your habits so you become the main character. Here is a list on how you can build real self-trust. 1. Keep micro promises to yourself. We're not talking about grand gestures. We're talking about small micro commitments that become evidence that you are someone important. Small things like, I'll drink a glass of water when I wake up. I'll read my book first thing in the morning. Once you do these things, regulate your nervous system and affirm the identity. And say something like, I am the type of person who is dependable and do as I say. Second on this list is celebrate follow-through, not just outcomes. Instead of waiting for external validation, did they like it? Start validating yourself for showing up. Be your own cheerleader. Don't place emphasis on what people tell you, whether it's positive or negative comments, because at the end of the day, you're still placing too much weight on what people say. At the end of the day, it is you who must feel proud of yourself. And focusing on the follow-through is something you can control and something you should be proud of. The outcome you you can't control as much, so it shouldn't have as much weight. And third on this list is treat yourself like someone you actually love. If you're tired of being a side character, then it's time to start acting like the main one. When you wake up, do something for yourself first before others. When you feel tired, focus on your energy first. If you're going through a tough time, stop the negative talk and give yourself grace and patience that you do for other people. Remember, it works both ways. How you act in the 3D world determines the identity that you have in your inner world. I want to encourage you to take up space. Don't burn yourself up to make other people comfortable. You deserve and owe it to yourself to live your life the way that you want. Over time, these tiny ripples will compound and you'll start to see your identity shift. So stop over apologizing, stop second guessing, and stop shape-shifting. Start walking into rooms like you belong, because you do. Concept number 3, your weird is actually your magic. A part of self-trust is accepting all parts of yourself, not just one. If you're weird, great. The part that feels a little too loud, a little too sensitive, a little too passionate, you know that thing that made you feel like a weird kid growing up? What if I told you that the part you've been trying to suppress is actually your gift? Every person you admire for their authenticity, their creativity, their uniqueness, they got that way because they stopped trying to fit in and started embracing what made them different. Honestly, being normal is so overrated. People don't follow normal. They follow real. Let me give you a quick story. One of the biggest reasons why my previous friendships didn't work was because I was being too serious. I was asking too many deep questions and everyone just wanted to have fun. I am emotional, sensitive, and sometimes I cry a little too much watching movies. But that's okay. I tried to mute that side of me for years just to be more chill. But the energy is actually what allows me to connect with people, to create, and to build this community. What once felt like a liability is actually my greatest strength. So don't silence parts of you that don't fit inside someone else's mold. It's only weird to them because they don't understand it, and that's okay. You're here to speak your own truth and attract people who can relate to you. People think that having the trait is what makes people successful, but the real superpower is actually your perception of your traits. Let me explain. I want you to try this right now. Get a notepad and make a list titled Things I've Been Told Are Too Much. Then let's reframe each one as a superpower. Because you can either think I'm too emotional, or you can say I'm highly empathetic. You can say I'm too intense, or you can say passionate and driven. You can say I'm too introverted, or you can say I'm deeply reflective and observant. You can say I'm too loud, or I'm bold and unafraid. I think you guys get the memo. And now I want you guys to reflect on this. What would my life look like if I stopped apologizing for this and started embracing my traits? Concept number 4. Most people aren't thinking about you. And think about it. When was the last time you spent hours thinking about someone else's awkward moment? Or someone else's outfit? Or someone else's voice cracking during a presentation? Exactly. You didn't. Here's a hard truth that just might set you free. We walk around thinking everyone is analyzing our every move, judging our every outfit, picking apart every word that we say. But the truth is, they're doing that to themselves. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to think about you. Let that sink in. We are all main characters in our own heads. Everyone has their own worries, insecurities, dreams, distractions, and emotional chaos. And while you're worrying that someone noticed you fumbled your words, they're likely worried about how they came across. And psychology supports this. It's called the spotlight effect. It's a term coined in social psychology that describes our tendency to overestimate how much others are noticing us. In reality, people pay far less attention than we think. But the fear behind all of this is still very real. The fear of being seen. It can feel paralyzing. Maybe you stop yourself from posting that video, or you shrink yourself in a meeting, or you don't speak up because you're afraid that someone will roll their eyes. The fear doesn't mean you're weak. It just means your nervous system is doing its job, keeping you safe from potential rejection. But here's the truth. Everyone has an opinion, but an opinion is not a fact. So how do you move through the fear of being seen? It starts with curiosity and not criticism. Ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? Is it looking cringy, being misunderstood, failing publicly? Get specific. The more clearly you can name the fear, the less power it holds. Next, I want you guys to start practicing micro exposures. You don't have to dive into your biggest fears all at once. Start small, post a voice memo on your story, share an idea in a group chat, wear the thing that feels like you, even if it's not in. You're not proving anything to anyone. You're just building evidence that it's really not that bad. The worst thing that can happen to us is if we die. Everything else is just an opinion, and it's not the worst thing that can happen. The more concrete evidence you can provide that nothing terrible is going to happen to you, the smaller the fear becomes. If you feel discomfort, remind yourself that discomfort isn't danger. The flush of heat when you speak up, the stomach flip when you share something personal, that's growth. Your body's way of stretching into a new level of self-expression. Accept the feeling, think of it as growth, and tell yourself, I'm proud that I'm letting myself be uncomfortable, and then let it pass. We will all feel uncomfortable one way or another. It's our ability to reframe this as working for us and not against us that we keep winning. So really reflect on these questions the next time you have the fear of being seen. What else could this person be focused on right now? Even if they did think something about me, what does it actually do? Nothing. Reframe it like this. Imagine that everyone around you is holding up a mirror and not a magnifying glass. They're reflecting their own lives at themselves and not zooming in on yours. When you visualize you've been living under an imaginary spotlight, you also realize you can step out at any time you choose. Concept number 5, align your life around you and not their expectations. It's very hard to live a life that isn't yours, and we don't realize how many decisions we're making based on someone else's comfort and expectations. From the way we dress, to the careers we choose, to the dreams we abandon, so much has shaped these invisible expectations. So if you've ever felt like you're performing more than living, this is your sign to come back home to yourself. And so much of our pain and internal conflict comes from misalignment. Not because we're lazy, not because we're lost, but because we're living a version of a life that was approved by others. The goal isn't to rebel, it's to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. What helps here is to redefine success in your own terms. A lot of us are chasing someone else's dream without realizing it, so sit down and write out all the things you were taught would make you successful, then one by one, cross out the ones that don't actually make you feel alive, and write a new definition that's yours. Maybe that's peace, or freedom, or having slow mornings, or honest conversations. Let your version be enough. Really have brutal clarity. Ask yourself, if no one had an opinion, what would I want? Not what sounds good, or what would make your parents proud, or what's trending on TikTok. What do you want? Get quiet and let yourself answer honestly. Promise the answer will surprise you. The quiet desires, the ones that make you feel guilty for even thinking about them, are usually the most sacred to you. And then start saying these desires out loud, even just to yourself, especially the ones you've been afraid to name. The ones that feel too big, too selfish, or too silly. Shame thrives in silence. But when you speak your truth, you start training your nervous system to understand that it's safe to want what you want. You don't have to act on it all right away, but speaking it gives it permission to exist. From there, take note of what you've committed to right now. Look at your calendar, your relationships, your routines. How much of it actually feels aligned to this vision that you have? Or is everything filled up to avoid disappointing someone? It is okay to change. It's okay to close doors that no longer feel right, even if they once did. You don't have to explain your exit from a life that doesn't fit you. Reclaiming your life happens in small, quiet moments of micro courage. Saying no without over-explaining, asking for what you need, letting yourself be seen in your weird, wonderful, imperfect way. And that's where alignment lives, in the little choices that add up to the life you actually recognize as your own. You don't need a life that makes everyone else nod in approval. You need a life that makes you feel safe, expansive, and on purpose. Because the only thing scarier than disappointing others is abandoning yourself. I really hope that you found soft encouragement watching today's video. If you like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't ever miss a video. You'll be helping us pass this message to anyone that needs to hear this too. If you're wanting to build more self-trust, create new habits, I want to invite you to join the garden. The link is in the description below. Thank you again so much for watching. My name is Neandra, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye!